One thing I'm seeing a lot lately is the level of denial of people out there that just don't want to look at what's happening out there with the economy and the housing market. You know, one of the biggest criticisms that I get on the channel is, oh, well, you're always saying everything's going to be so bad. What about this? What about that? Why aren't you reporting this? You know, you only talk about the bad stuff. You're not talking about the good stuff that's happening. And basically what it comes down to, guys, is the fact that the bad that's happening right now outweighs the good, essentially. You know, this inflation coming down to the 7.7%, first of all, ask yourself, do you believe that? Second of all, ask yourself, do you feel like everything that you buy is only 7% more expensive now? Of course not. So you know right away, things like that, you just can't look at that as the truth. And the other criticism that I get when it comes to the housing market is, oh, so what if home prices come down 20%? You know, it's still gonna be 20% more expensive than it was before because home prices went up 40%. Yeah, guys, that's true. You know, there's nothing I can do about that. And I think a lot of this just comes from like denial or anger or not really wanting to acknowledge what's really going on out there. But the way I see it is, people come to my channel because I tell it like it is, and I'm not afraid to tell you guys what's really going on, even if it might not be good news all the time. And it's good to hear the bad news because that way you're prepared on how to handle it and know more or less maybe what to expect instead of get blindsided like, oh, I didn't know home prices were going down, you know, things like that. If you don't pay attention, then you're not going to know. And finally, at least one economist out there is paying attention, and shockingly, the economist that is telling everybody this is Nadia Evangelou. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but she's with the National Association of Realtors, guys. The National Association of Realtors is the organization that is in charge of all licensed realtors across the entire country, okay? Even myself, I am a part of this organization. If you want to have access to the MLS, you need to be a part of the National Association of Realtors. And this economist, Nadia, who is with the National Association of Realtors, she says that 2024 is going to be the year to buy the house. Okay? That's going to be the earliest opportunity of when things are going to start looking good again. And she's saying this because most likely in 2023, we're going to see a significant slowdown in the market in the form of how many people are actually purchasing homes and possibly how many people are listing homes, but that's yet to be seen because obviously it's not 2023 yet. So we will find out soon enough. But the other main reason of why things are going to slow down is because of high inflation. As this high inflation really starts taking its toll on households across the country, people will likely put a pause on home buying because of inflation taking a bigger chunk out of their monthly budget. That, along with the fact that the mortgage interest rates combined with these prices just don't make sense, guys. And for a lot of people, it's not going to be worth it for them to jump in and buy a house in 2023 until things calm down a bit. So that's why she's saying 2024 is most likely going to be the year when it might start making sense again. And the other reason why, guys, the average home buyer right now needs to have an income of $107,000 per year to afford a mortgage on a median price home right now, which is up 46% year over year. And like I said in a prior video, this is a huge factor of why we saw this run up in the housing market, because these ultra low interest rates combined with reasonable prices made homes way more affordable than they basically ever have been before. And that's why we saw this frenzy, essentially. Now that it's all reversing and the damage has been done, you know, how many households out there make over 100K a year and can afford to buy at these prices? You know, that's what we're looking at right now. And even if you can afford it, are you going to do it is the next thing. So we'll see, right? Got one for sale. This place looks totally abandoned and dilapidated. So hopefully it's for a good price. It's funny when you see listings like this because it's basically not even the house for sale. It's basically saying the house is garbage, build your own dream house, and the cost is $3 million just for the land. What I will mention, guys, because the article does say this, I don't necessarily agree, but I have to say that she says that even if inflation does come down in 2023, it doesn't necessarily mean that home prices are going to get cheaper, because there's still a lot of demand and really low inventory. So I do believe we have a lot of demand out there, but I know for a fact that the inventory levels are consistently rising month over month right now. And if that trend continues, we're going to eventually have the inventory that we need to meet the demands of the market. So we'll be finding that out soon enough. And that's ultimately how I see the prices starting to come down. That combined with all the other economic factors when it comes to layoffs and people not being able to afford to pay their mortgage under these inflationary times, and just all these things. You know, I hope none of it comes true, guys. I hope that people are able to keep their homes. It's not like I ever want to see someone go into foreclosure, but that's the reality of the situation that we're looking at oftentimes when we're in an economic downturn. So it all just depends on how bad things get going into next year. And to kind of back up what I just said here, we saw the mortgage rates go down last week, right? We saw the mortgage rates go from 7.14% to 6.9%, and everyone was jumping for joy saying, oh, this is the end. Mortgage rates are going to continue to fall now, guys. It's not going to happen. We saw this happen about a month or two ago. Same thing happened. You know, mortgage rates went down for about a week, maybe a week and a half, and then they shot right back up. And I can guarantee you we're going to see this happen again. And the reason why it doesn't matter is because guess what? It didn't do anything for the market. People didn't rush back out to get mortgages now that it dropped, you know, a fraction of a point, which basically does nothing for you in terms of your monthly payment. Things are still way too unaffordable, you know, at these rates and prices, essentially. So this mortgage rates going down last week, it made the amount of mortgage applications go up 2.7%. That's it. That's not a very high amount. And I know the critics are going to say, well, you know, you say when the housing prices go down by 2.7%, that's a big deal. But when this happens, it's nothing, right? No, guys, it's not that. It's just that this is not making a dent in the situation, right? You know, this doesn't mean that all of a sudden everyone's going to go back out there and buy. The reason why I think it doesn't really matter is because when we look at the prior statistic, you know, the average household needs to earn $107,000 per year right now. Most people don't earn that, guys. And, you know, the rates dropping down to 6.9% for a week is not going to make a difference pretty much at all. So that's why I'm saying that, versus when home prices come down 2% and it continues to go down month over month. That is a continually happening trend that we can see happening month after month that we can track. But when mortgage rates go down for a week and shoot right back up, what does that mean? It basically means nothing. So there's nothing really to report there. This is the funniest thing I've seen all day. See the sign? Warning, I don't dial 911. Looking down the barrel of a 45. Now here's something that just started happening again that we haven't heard about in a really long time. And so this mainly applies to people that bought a home with a second mortgage. And some people might not even be aware if you did this or not, but this was very common back during the previous real estate run-up, you know, during the 2006, 2007 run-up to the market before it crashed in 2008. Because back in those days, when we had all of the subprime loans, people could essentially get into a house with no money down. And usually how that looked was something along the lines of, you get your first mortgage for 80% of the purchase price, and then you get the second mortgage for 20% of the purchase price, okay? And then obviously what happened next was the housing market crashed and a lot of people got in financial trouble. But people who made it through that crash and ended up getting these loans back then are starting to see some problems with this right now in the form of these second mortgage holders now attempting to foreclose on homeowners for non-payment. Because what happened was you had a bunch of these people get these second mortgages, and probably not knowing much about home ownership, don't even realize that they have this second mortgage. And a lot of people actually stopped receiving statements, which obviously is a big red flag. And they thought probably they just don't have to pay anymore. And some people even had it go as far as getting the debt canceled or filing bankruptcy and thinking that they were out of it forever, right? Well, now there is a wave of these second mortgages coming back, trying to foreclose on people for unpaid debt. Like, for example, there's a woman in Brooklyn that got a notice in the mail claiming that she owed about $130,000 on her home in Brooklyn. She didn't even know she had a second mortgage, supposedly. And some of these people who are getting foreclosed on by these second mortgages are actually filing their own lawsuits, stating that the statute of limitations says that you can't come after me anymore because it's been too long. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. But if you have a second mortgage, guys, make sure that you're paying it first of all, because if you're not, then you could be in a situation where they try to come after you. But if you bought a home back in this time period and you're not sure if you have a second mortgage, go back and check your paperwork for when you bought the property to double check, to see how many loans you have on there, because the last thing you want happening is one of these situations happening to you, and then you have to fight it in court, you have to file a lawsuit and try to keep your home, because the reason these lenders are coming after people now is because if you think about it, the home prices plummeted during the last crash and they weren't worth anything. So it wasn't even worth repossessing because they weren't going to make any of their money back. But now that we're back to basically all-time high prices, you're starting to see more of these second lien holders come out of the woodwork and try to seize property and turn around and sell it and recover their money. So make sure you don't have a second mortgage, guys, and if you do, make sure you're paying it. Now, another reason that I have been pessimistic about the housing market is because I'm following what the big boys are looking at, guys, and the big boys are also the home builders. And the home builders right now are saying, this is basically the worst market they've seen in a long time, in the form of this is the 11th straight month in a row that home builder sentiment is down. And these guys are feeling the pain because they're saying that these higher interest rates is completely killing the demand for these new houses. And we talked about before how a bunch of people who are in the process of buying these new homes are also canceling their contracts because they just can't afford it anymore. And so you have to look at this and say, something's not right, guys. And the people who want to deny this and not look at it, that's your problem, But here on the channel, we're looking at what's actually going on out there, and what's going on isn't looking so good right now. And the home builders agree, the economists from the National Association of Realtors agree, Redfin agrees. They know something we don't? No, they don't, because we're reporting it here on the channel. But if you bury your head in the sand, then you're going to come out a giant loser on the end of this thing. From September to November, about 60% of home builders nationwide are resorting to different incentives right now to get their inventory sold. They're doing things like mortgage rate buy downs. We covered this last week on the channel. They're doing price cuts. The average price cut on a new home is about 6%. They're also paying points for mortgages as well to basically buy down your rate in that way. So they're doing different things to get people into homes right now. And if you ask me, we can't ignore this stuff because it is happening, and whether you like it or not, you just have to admit the truth. There's a saying that I like, and it goes something like this: you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts. But I agree with Nadia from the National Association of Realtors. I think 2024 will probably be a much better time overall to buy, and probably even in the end of 2023 most likely, because by then I think a lot of the dust may have settled, but it might not be the best time ever to buy. I'm just saying that it will probably be better than it is right now. Remember, guys, I am not your financial advisor. I'm just a real estate agent from Miami, giving you my opinion on the internet. And at the end of the day, everybody should do what they feel is right for their own life. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to present to you what's going on out there. That way you can make the best decision for yourself. That's the service and the value that I'm hoping to provide here on the channel, and really nothing more than that. So do what you feel is right, and if your gut is telling you it's a good idea, then it probably is. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the bell notification down below. YouTube will alert you every time I put out a new video. And if you don't want to wait, check out my next video on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.